Okay, you remember that in the last set of video lectures, we talked about these three main subfields of ethics, and I promised you that I would go over the main theories in normative ethics in a set of video lectures. So that's what I'm going to do now. Near the end, we will discuss the question of what these normative ethical theories say about our obligations to the environment, or what we should do about environmental issues. So there are three main types of normative ethical theory in the Western tradition. There are theories that emphasize the consequences of actions. They think that what ethics is really about is getting the best results, maximizing good results and minimizing bad results. There are theories that emphasize rights and duties. These theories have a kind of, whereas consequentialist theories that emphasize the results, tend to be more and less, maximizing and minimizing kind of theories. They're trying to get as much as possible of something, and they recognize that they might not be able to get, they can always imagine getting a little bit more of whatever the thing is that's good. Whereas duty-based theories and rights-based theories, they hold that there's a standard for morality that as long as people meet that standard, they're fully moral. There's a kind of a benchmark or a bar. And so usually it's expressed in terms of meeting one's obligations and respecting other people's rights. So as long as people do that, then they've fulfilled their duty, and they're fully moral. Likewise about societies, as long as societies recognize and protect people's rights in the right way, then they're morally perfect, morally acceptable. And then finally, the third kind of theory is what's called virtue theories, and these take it that ethics is fundamentally about being a certain kind of person, so that what we should be aiming for is becoming the right kind of person, becoming a person who has what virtue theories sometimes call the virtues, that is, good character traits. And likewise, in society, we should be aiming to basically produce as many people as we can, or produce people who, as much as possible, exhibit these virtues. So they think that ethics is about being a good person, fundamentally. Now, the most famous of the consequentialist theories is a theory called utilitarianism. And as we go forward, I may just refer to utilitarianism as one of the three basic theories, because most of the consequentialist theories are utilitarian. And utilitarianism is very, very popular and widespread as an ethical theory. So the basic principle of utilitarianism is that people should maximize pleasure and minimize pain for the greatest number of beings affected by their action. So the way to tell what the right thing to do is to basically make an estimate of how any possible action that one is considering doing will affect any being that can feel pleasure or pain, and then acting only, and then choosing the action among the actions that one has available to oneself, choosing the action that will maximize pleasure and minimize pain for the greatest number of beings affected by the action. If you think about it, that's an attractive kind of principle to go by. It has some problems associated with it. I mean, there are some objections that can be made to it, which we'll mention in just a moment. Now, among the duty-based theories, probably the most famous theorist and tradition of theories is the Kantian tradition, named after Immanuel Kant, a theorist from the 1700s. Kant emphasized duty and rights as the fundamental features of morality, and he proposed one supreme principle of morality, as he called it, which he calls the categorical imperative. But then he claims that the categorical imperative can be expressed in multiple ways. So it's the same basic principle, but it can be expressed in different ways that make it easier to apply in different contexts, which sounds like kind of a crazy idea, but that is what Kant said. So two of the most famous, he gives 5 different formulations of the categorical imperative in his famous book, Foundations of the Metaphysics of Morals. But the 2 most famous formulations are here on the screen. So one is act only from maxims that you could will from everyone else to act from. And the other is never act in such a way that you treat others as means only, but also as ends in themselves. Now, that's very wordy and kind of hard to make sense of, I'm sure, the first time you read it. I think they can be given a very simple summary, which is that the first one says, treat others fairly, and the second one says, respect autonomy of others, okay? Let me say a little bit more about each.